journal every day, multiple times a day, and so I'm sharing my tools and methods with you in hopes that it might be helpful or inspire you in your own practices. And so my favorite resource is a nice black plain blank page sketchbook that I can use in any way I want. Often I stamp at the beginning of the page. This is my book of liberation because it was really liberating for me to realize that my journaling did not have to take any specific form or fit into any kind of mold or respond to any kind of question, but it could just be totally freeform. And so these books, I've filled up 3 of them this year already. These books are all about like whatever I want. If I want to put a feather in that I found on a walk, I can. If I want to glue something in that somebody else sent to me, I can do that. If I want to write long narratives about the things I saw during my walks, I can do that. To me, multicolored pens are a must. Gel pens I like, and I like to write in the different colors because it helps me. I'm trying to find if I have anything else interesting in here or not. Just a second. You can see my handwriting's not really lovely. Okay, so I like to, but that handwriting's not what it's about for me. This is my book of liberation, remember? So sometimes I like to just draw in them, and I keep a template in there so I can pull it out. And then I also keep a little envelope at the front with another little template. There's also some seeds and things in there that, and a feather, a heron feather that I found at the river, and then this was a little feather and some thistle seeds that one of our customers sent to us from Scotland, and I put them in there. And then I cut up some of my own poems. I usually do a back page as well. Some of our business cards getting some rebirth, and then I fill in the middle with whatever I want to. So this forms a starting point of my day. I take this one outside with me every morning. A lot of times I wake up with something in my head already that wants to come out, and so I wake up, I have my daily prayers that I say while I'm still in bed, then I hop up and I will put something down. If it's real insistent, like if it's a line from a poem or if it's something I want to remember, I hop up and I put that down like before I do anything else. Anyway, then I take this journal outside with me, I set it on the porch rail, and I walk around, and if I have thoughts or insights or poems or ideas or things I want to record, I write them right down right then before I come inside or do anything else. And so, but I can also, sometimes I write lists in here, sometimes I write class notes, I write poems, I write responses to prompts, I put anything in there, and that's why I call it my book of liberation, because there isn't a rule or a boundary to what I can put in there, and it doesn't have to be good per se. Even it doesn't have to be something I'm going to keep and use, and anything can fit, and it's okay. So I write in that one just about every morning, and to me, writing is a way to capture my insights, divine inspiration, what have you. So it's really important to me to have something available that has has unlimited space, unlimited possibility, unlimited potential, and that I can write. And sometimes I write with a intention, like something I'm trying to explore on purpose, but more often it's just what I'm capturing that's actually happening in that moment, or the inspiration that has come to me in that moment. Then I also have my Desire Map Planner from Danielle Laporte, and that's that one. What will I do to feel the way I want to feel? And this one I usually do in the morning after yoga. So I do yoga, and after yoga is over, I draw my cards of the day, and then I put the card at the top and put some little notes about that. Then I usually fill out those sections, and then I keep my to-do list at the top, and then I almost always leave space in the day for the journal, and I usually just write journal, and then I write at night is when I use this one. So the morning after yoga, I do my card draw, I write it down, I fill out the parts that are blank that need to be filled. I usually leave the schedule blank. Sometimes maybe, maybe I'll add to-do lists up to about here, but I usually leave it at least this much room for myself to write in. And then at night, before I go to sleep, I take this book to bed with me and I write the journal entry for the day. And it is this is the kind of, so the black book is like full of inspiration, poems, wisdom, insights, flashes of goddess-inspired lightning. And then this is like, today I went to the store and it was interesting and I bought this. Like, that's what I do in here. And this is like my daily accounting, my daily journal, my daily, like more of a classic diary kind of, today this happened record. And I write that down in this one, and I do that at night, which I find is kind of, I've often said I don't really have an evening ritual, but it's come to me that writing in this book at night is kind of an evening ritual. It's an opportunity to account for the day, to reflect on the day, and to think about things sometimes going into the next day. And then I also do meal planning on the calendar pages, or the calendar at the beginning. That's exclusively what I use this for. I don't write anything else on it, like what I'm doing. I just put down what I'm going to eat. Well, that's important too. And so I find it important to have different journals for different purposes so that you don't feel bound in, it can be nice to have everything in one, but also it gets a little cumbersome to have everything in one. It also gets a little cumbersome to be toting 3 journals around with you everywhere you go, but that's okay. And then I also have this Planner for Magical Year, Amy Cesari, and this one is the one I've referenced before, where I keep, this is simply my little magical notes journal, and I don't bind myself to coloring it. If I feel like coloring part of it, I will, but you don't have to feel, I don't feel like you have to feel obligated or like, oh, I got behind, I didn't color everything. Oh, well, if you didn't color everything, just turn to the next page. I do the intuition stuff at the beginning of the section. I usually keep the calendar with just a little note about that day. I keep words on the side of how I want to feel. And so this one I either do, I'll do this in the morning, but I'll also do it in the night. It really just depends. Sometimes it becomes part of my desire map ritual, evening closing ritual. Sometimes it is part of the morning, depending on what has happened. But every day, and I do apologize for my handwriting. I don't care, though, that it looks the way it looks. I write fast, and it is about capturing what I want to capture for me, not about looking pretty. So I write down the magical moment of every day, and I write down what I listen to every day. Magic is my word from last year. Listen is my word from this year, my word of the year. And for every day of the year, I've written down something magical that I experienced and something that I listened to. Sometimes what I listen to is intuition, sometimes it's a crow, sometimes it is my kids talking to me, sometimes it is having a conversation with a friend, sometimes it is listening to a poem that wanted to wind up from the flowers. It really varies what it is. And I usually put my rune over in the corner of the day as well. And anyway, so when I get to the end of the month, when I get to the end of the year, I have my other little poems and notes and stuff sticking here. But, so all that stuff, and you know what? If there's a blank page, it's a blank page, like, so be it. But I write all those little things, and so every day of the year has a magic moment and a listening moment, and that's it. I don't use this for planning anything else. It's only for magical moments and listening moments. And I find those, like having a gratitude practice, that is one of those things that is really helpful and useful to have a space where you're just doing one thing instead of everything. So this is my book of liberation, where anything goes. This is my book where I pretty much just keep my magic moments, my listening moments. The end. Great. Yay. Color if I have time. And then I have not been, I update my Kalamundala for the year. I update that on the new moon every month and add my rune and cards to the Kalamundala. So that's not really journaling, but kind of. And I had a really dedicated moon wheel practice for about 3 years. And I found this year I've let go of the moon wheel practice after about 6 months in. And it's because it started to feel like it was duplicating a lot of the stuff I was writing other places, and I was using symbols in my journals, and so it felt like almost like I was just duplicating things. So Moonwheel is a great shorthand sort of journal. It's good. People often get kind of distracted into thinking it has to only be about cycle tracking, but it's really not about cycle tracking. I use runes on it, mood tracking, headaches, feelings, intentions, etc. There's a lot that can go on a Moonwheel that is not really about cycle tracking in terms of like menstrual cycle. It can be there can be all number of things. I find that a very secondary component of keeping a Moonwheel. But for some reason I hit about the June with this year, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm ready to lay aside the Moonwheels for a little while, and that's going to be okay too, because the last thing you want journaling to feel like as part of your practice is a chore, a to-do, something you're doing wrong, something that you need to perfect and get better at. Then that's just, to me, that's completely not the purpose whatsoever of keeping journaling in your life. So I learn a lot about myself and from the world, and distinguishing patterns in my own life, behavior, thoughts, energy. I learn a lot about myself in that way from writing and journaling. But it should never be a chore or something you're making yourself do. And there's the runes. The Flying Woman was my rune for today. Always a favorite. I draw those, and I usually leave it face up in the box so I can see it. I use the Sacred Traveler Oracle, which I've been using for about almost 2 years now, almost every day. But I have another little journal. That's why I'm opening that. My little travel pocket journal that fits in the top of the Sacred Travel Oracle deck box. And this one is for if I don't want to be toting a big book along with me. And so if I'm going somewhere on a trip or something like that, then I do the little tiny one, and it's essentially the lesson of each day goes in that travel journal with a little picture. See? Ta-da! And then I like how it makes a self-contained little package. And I can put it in there with my stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. Maybe it's not not complicated or overwhelming or it doesn't involve any rules. One of the things I stamp in the front of these sometimes too is no forcing, because nothing needs to be forced. Don't force it. Don't force it. Just do it if you want to. Though I will say that I find that daily is the key to me for almost everything in my life. It's daily, and I know that feels chafing or binding or restrictive to some people. So maybe weekly is great for you. Maybe monthly is great for you, maybe new moon, maybe full moon, maybe quarterly, whatever it is, that's great. For me, daily is the key to essentially anything. It's the key to yoga, it's the key to writing a book, it's the key to prayer, it's the key to devotional practices, and it's the key to journaling as an effective and not effective, it doesn't have to be effective, but journaling as a rewarding practice to me is daily. If you let 6 days go by, then you start to feel pressure to catch up and you have to do it. And maybe you get annoyed with yourself and for quote unquote letting it go, and so then you lay it aside, and then by the time you get to the end of the year, you have 3 months worth of journaling, and that's it, instead of every day. So daily is it. Daily is the key, I swear, on many levels for many things is daily. And that said, if you skip a day, one of my other pro tips on life is do not attempt to go backwards unless you really want to. If you want to go backwards and catch yourself up for the 5 days you missed, that's fine. Otherwise, literally start where you are right there with that day. Say, oh well, that the 3 days before didn't have anything written. Oh well, that you didn't capture that insight that you wanted to capture. Don't let that stop you from writing something new today. So if you missed it, you missed it. Start with what you have right now and then keep going forward. Do not try to go backwards or attempt to save or fix or salvage or catch up with something that you didn't do. That's a recipe for binding yourself down and getting hard on yourself, and also possibly almost sabotaging yourself so that you don't get anything else finished. So that's my little journaling lesson for you. Enjoy.